You're listening to From the Pink Seats podcast of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Now, here's your hosts, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavin, and Vince Lococo.
God, I'm glad we are not talking about basketball right now. It's starting, or excuse me, From the Pink Seats podcast, powered by the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Russell Meyer, Vince Lococo with us tonight. Jacob Lane is off because it is Ruby's birthday. Happy birthday, Ruby. Probably the most well-spoken 6-year-old I've ever talked to. Like, it's hard to believe. Jacob produced a child that's like 6 years old and like 5 feet tall, which is funny for anybody who's ever been around Jacob. He's just like a skinny, like 5'9" dude. So it's weird to see his mammoth child that is already, smart enough to hold an intelligent conversation with adults. But anyways, Jacob's out for the night. Stepping in, we have maybe a little bit better.
Just a little bit.
Reggie Bonnafon, what's going on, man?
Man, what's going on, guys? I got some big shoes to fill tonight, but I think he's going to trust me in doing a good job. So I'm glad to be here. Excited to talk it out with you guys today. So
yeah, just
having me on.
Honored to be in the presence of 2 Louisville football legends, to be honest with you.
One Louisville football legend.
Vince Lococo and this other dude, Reggie. Yeah, I get it. But anyways, before we get too deep into this, we want to thank, as always, our sponsors from Kern's Corner. Kern's, it's that time of year, bro. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was snow in Louisville last night. Like, kids are out trick-or-treating, and there is snow, which is just the most Louisville thing ever, which means it's going to be like 70 degrees on Christmas. That's what it means, right?
Yeah.
But it also means it's time to start taking Kern's Corner chili seriously. Get that Matt McGavick shit out of your house. Kern's Corner is in. So it's at the corner of Bardstown Road and Lakeside. So how about that? If you're not familiar, everybody by now should be familiar with Kern's, but I will hold Jacob to that I think that probably is the best bowl of chili you can get in the city. What do you think, Vince?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's cash only too, so don't forget that. I mean, they have an ATM in there, but nobody really ever wants to pay that $3, $4 service fee. So,
no, especially when you're paying less than that to get.
Yeah, I know. You cash out your $20, and you're still taking money home in your pocket.
And make sure you utilize this and bet with the show. It's bit.ly/State of Louisville. Bet with us, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But make sure you utilize that link, and it comes back to us, which means it comes back to you, the listeners, which you love that.
See, Reggie, this is the stuff that you miss whenever, you're just a guest and, we're interviewing Reggie Bonnafon for Notre Dame week. Now that you're on for a full recap of the show, you get to hear all the fine details and stuff of what goes on in the beginning.
That's right.
Everybody you got to plug in, and why I just don't host the show. I can't do all that. I can't get all that out.
Yeah, I love it, though. Like,
you see how the bacon gets made.
Yeah,
that's
man.
exactly what it is.
See how the bacon gets made.
Also, these are the best conversations of the show. Like, when we get to talking football, like, that's a lot of what people are here for. But also, like, we shoot the shit. Like, we talk about farts and stuff, and the 5-star gas station and Delta Dawn.
Oh, yeah. So, Reggie, that's been my thing all year, this whole season. I don't know if you've heard it.
The sandwiches, right?
Yes.
Sandwich.
Okay. Yeah. So the sandwiches that I realize this is a good start that I fucked up against Pitt. I fucked up.
Okay. I like that.
So Presley, this comes with my bologna, egg, and cheese sandwich. And Emerson reminded me of this. She goes, you realize I've had a big chicken sandwich from 5-Star every Saturday as well, which is their chicken biscuit sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get her one for the Pitt week because I didn't get her one.
Yeah, it was a Pitt week,
and we lost. And I'm like, oh wow, that's 100% on me then for not doing that.
Dude, there's something to superstitions, like, and I mean, Reggie, you played the sport at pretty much the highest level, right?
Yeah.
You're the only person on this podcast that scored an NFL touchdown. So, when I say this, you can speak to this probably better than me. Superstitions are important. Like, that's an important mental aspect of things. Like, I don't know if you heard the story that Peyton Siva told when he did the L&M Eats segment. Mm-hmm. He said that he went to a just rundown, just hole in the wall pizza place in New York City, the night before the Big East before the Big East tournament started, and he played really well. So he had to go back for 5 straight nights and eat the same pizza every night in New York City. And he said he feels like Coach Pitino would have killed him. Any superstitions?
I mean, they were far and few between, but if I can think of just a few of them, right? And it actually, this one, believe it or not, came from somebody else that I heard, because it was kind of a similar question. It happened to be a guy I played with at Louisville. But shout out to Will Gardner, right?
Yeah,
blast from the past right there.
That's my guy. So we were asked one day, like, might have been in the quarterback room, like, hey, what's superstitions? He said he put on his shoes like right shoe first, left shoe, and like his explanation to that had some validity to it, right? I think he was a strong faith base, strong relationship with God, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to put my right shoe on first, and then the second one, the left one after that. And when I heard it, I was like, you know what, I'm tripping. I need to put my right shoe on first. So I started doing that, and that's probably kind of the only thing. Maybe running around the field prior to warming up, and just stuff like that, routine kind of deal that just gets me in that zone.
Presser, you're talking to Mr. Smooth. Mr. Smooth just runs out there on the field and just gets the job done. Does a couple high knees, some butt kickers, and goes out there and does his thing.
I honestly, always as a player hated the warm up before the warm up. Because
that's the dumbest thing.
What are we really doing out here? Like, I know we're feeling it out, but I mean, after like freshman year, I'm sure there's been times in my career where I probably never even went out because I'm like, either I don't feel like it, or I'm just not about to go out here and just like layup lines. It's just like, bro, shoot around.
I have one superstition with Robbie Bell our last 2 years at Louisville, and he put his pads on and be like, right as we're about to walk out, your typical lineman shit, where he'd like make me slap him 3 times in the chest and like 3 times on top of his shoulders, and my hands would be like throbbing red by the end of it. Like, this sucks for me, man.
For sure, man.
Yeah, I mean, who's more intense, Nick Cartwell before a game or me in the stands?
Nick Cartwell before a game, because it's the reasoning behind it is because he has 0 caffeine. Like, he's not allowed to have any caffeine in his body, so he's just naturally that like fucked up. He's just naturally that crazy, and that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be legal.
He said it shouldn't happen.
I love that. I mean, we could talk sports psychology all day. One other thing that I want to get into, we do have a new sponsor. We have a new sponsor for the site as a whole. It's going to be our name brand sponsor for our basketball podcast. But Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon, shout out to Russ Smith. Listen, Mr. and Mrs., I've gotten to know the brand, know who they are behind the scenes a little bit more. And one thing that I'll say is this is a bourbon, this is a company that holds its own. What I mean by that is that here in the city of Louisville, it's easy for Russ to put as many bottles as he wants on the shelf and for them to sell. Everybody knows who Russ Smith is in this town. But when he goes to Wisconsin and does some sort of bourbon tasting event or something of that nature, if he goes to Florida, wherever, nobody knows who Russ Smith is. They just think it's this dude that's the label on the bourbon bottle. They're like, oh, is that you? It's something that it holds its own because, yes, his name bears a lot of weight in the college basketball world. Even some of those who might watch pro ball, anybody who's into the NCAA tournament, they know and remember Russ Smith. But outside of that world, there's a lot of people who don't pay attention to Louisville sports. And this bourbon absolutely holds its own. They have 6 different types of bourbon, and each one of them is absolutely above and beyond my expectations. So if you have not tried Mr. and Mrs., make sure you do so. We're going to be sipping on a lot of that during podcasts going forward. Already see the Reggie.
Oh, no.
Sipping
we have to sip on
bourbon.
Not bourbon.
No. Yes, that is one other thing that we wanted to get into, and we have a lot of exciting things coming with Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon. But what we do want to get into, we already had a podcast earlier this week, and those of us who know jack shit about football got to talk about Louisville's win over Duke. But I want to hear your all's quick takeaways from the Duke game. And Vince, I'll let you go first because you absolutely earned.
I've been waiting on this one, Reggie. Been waiting on this one. I should be coming with like a list of receipts of people that told me this game was going to be difficult from the moment the schedule was released. I mean, we looked at whenever we did the schedule prediction, I was talking so much shit on Duke because it's Duke football. At the end of the day, it is Duke football. In no world do they come on our field and, roll over us. Right. So, for me, knowing that Riley Leonard was hurt and knowing our D-line and knowing how much pressure we could get on him, I mean, I thought it was a no-brainer, especially with the backup they had. The backup was, just as bad at times, if not worse. And it's just, it's Duke football. What do y'all expect? I mean, y'all are everybody's so surprised. But I mean, I was sitting over here, my sister's senior day, just relaxing. We're about to walk out of the tunnel, and I'm like showing my dad the score. I'm like, I mean, just look at this. It's just, we're not missing anything.
Reggie, I want to hear your thoughts about the W.
Look, last week was what we needed all as Louisville fans, right? As a collective, coming off the week prior, we don't need to even get into that, but it wasn't what we expected, right? The Duke game, I love to see a shutout. I don't know anybody that plays or watches football that doesn't love to see a shutout. And the response that the guys showed collectively as a team, responding after having a tough showing, right, against Pittsburgh and coming out, displaying a shutout, putting up points, being electric, running the ball, getting back to Louisville football, how we love to watch it. I mean, it's promising, It's kind of that midway in the point of the season to where it's like, look, we control our destinies right in front of us. We're in the CFP, rankings and things of that nature. So I feel good about it. I don't want to belabor the point of it being what was needed to move forward. But at the same time, I think as, Louisville collective, Louisville fans, I think we're excited about what's coming these next couple of weeks. And this was a good springboard for that.
Y'all hit on it, Presley, but just how much Jawar means to this team and this offense and, how much does truly kind of run through him and how much more comfortable Jeff is giving him the ball opposed to guys like Maurice Turner and Isaac Guerrero. Still, at times, though, I still want to see those guys get carries, and there are moments where, you can utilize both Isaac and Maurice in various different situations. But Jaws just has that big play capability, and I love seeing the offensive line push the pile. That is like, I know you love it too, Reggie, as a running back. It makes your job way easier trying to gain 3 or 4 extra yards. I mean, it's anytime you see that where a running back's getting pushed in the end zone, that should just get you fired up.
Yeah. I also have one more question for you guys too. Collectively, during the course of this year, what he's putting together on the field is Jaws arguably probably one of the, if not second best running backs to ever play at Louisville. Because I'm vouching for that at this point. Mm-hmm. Consistency in the 100-yard games, the explosiveness. I mean, he's on Michael Bush's coattail. I know he hasn't had the tenure at Louisville, but the impact at the position is starting to be something that I think everyone needs to talk about a lot more.
No doubt, and I hope. Oh man, Reggie, that's such a good comparison because I hope that Pitt stinker isn't the Rutgers stinker in comparison for us of that year. Where
I don't think it was.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it was.
I just saw that in my head where I'm like, oh man, that could be the one where we're sitting there at 5. Yeah.
But so currently, career rushing yards at Louisville, Jawar Jordan has 1733, which puts him at 19th all time. Mm-hmm. I wonder where our guy Reggie Bonnafon is all time on the rushing list.
Not
we'll get that here in a second.
I don't think it's too high, believe it or not. I don't even think I clipped the 1,000-yard mark.
Really? Yeah. I'm looking on the list. I have the full list. Okay, 805 career rushing yards at Louisville.
Yeah. Happy scrolling.
But 12 touchdowns. And listen here. I mean, the thing is, you weren't a running back that entire time, right?
No. Yeah.
44 receptions.
Yeah.
10.1 yards per reception. That's pretty solid. Between rushing and receiving, 18 career touchdowns. So, again, that's nothing to scoff at all.
The thing that I keep seeing people talk about with Jaws, though, getting back on that is, I said it 2 or 3 weeks ago, but you're seeing a lot more people talk about him being compared to Alvin Kamara and how he runs his style, the comfortability catching the ball out of the backfield, something you were very comfortable with doing, Reggie. So for me, my question to you, being that style of a ball player, what are like the biggest things being a running back catching the ball out of the backfield? Yeah, I mean, running backs, you don't see a lot of them with good hands, and to get one with some good hands, I mean, that's kind of a steal. That was always the thing with, guys like Rad, not to knock them, but like, they didn't have the best hands.
Right.
So what are some things that, come to your mind?
I mean, it's like with Gerard, he's so talented because a lot of the things that he possesses as skills, you can coach, but you can't at the same time, right? His speed is something you can't coach. Catching the ball is something that can be coached, but to your point, the amount of like effort that he doesn't have to put into it takes a lot of reps to do that, right? It's a difference between the haves and the have-nots when it comes to that at that position.
Do you think him being able to catch the ball so easily or fluidly helps him to take his mind off of running routes, or helps him to focus more on running routes and less on being able to, less on, oh shit, I got to catch the ball. He's more thinking of, how can I set this dude up right here?
100%. Like once you're comfortable enough, especially at that position, chances are you're not going to be catching the ball even 10 yards down the field. You might here and there, but more times than not, it's going to be in the flat. It's going to be in the hook. It's going to be a check down over the ball. Might be a option route here or there, right? And I think once you have that confidence, you can already start playing a couple of moves ahead because you're confident in the fact of like, I'm going to catch this ball. It's no different than getting a handoff. I just got a little bit more space. I'm able to see what's going on and kind of make my moves from there. So, man, I have so much to say about this game, how I've just been sitting back and watching it. And I can do a whole breakdown, honestly, but I don't want to belabor it. But it's so fun to watch. I'm just so glad he's healthy to where he can actually be out there making plays and, helping the team contribute to these wins. Because obviously when he's on the field, that's what we're doing.
I love that bye week couldn't have came at a better time either. I mean, the hamstring injuries are no joke. That stuff can linger throughout the entirety of the season. So for them to be able to get that under control and managed was huge. So kudos to Sean and just training staff.
100%. Being kind of a veteran guy, right? I just recommended him after the Notre Dame game. I was like, hey, Jaws, obviously great game, bro, but make sure you take care of your body. Just because at this point in the season, that becomes almost more important than anything else, right? Recovery, just getting your body back however you can. Nobody's healthy at this point in the season, but you wanted to be available, right? You want to be able to go out there and contribute, which I know he does, and that's what he's doing. And, just a point of emphasis that everybody needs reminding of it sometimes,
Yeah, I mean, not only did he make himself available, the most rushing yards he's had in a game all season. Really, he's all that Louisville needed against Duke. Everything that was kind of an issue with whether it was the play calling or execution against Pittsburgh, they kind of turned that on its head and made that a strength against Duke. So I thought that was an excellent job of the coaching staff. I know Coach Brom tends to, when they get behind, he wants to pass his way out of things. But the reality is right now, Jawad Jordan is by far the best player on that offense. So let's keep things moving. Let's keep it ticking along. To your point, Reggie, though, I mean, he has 6.5 yards per carry for his career, which is right there with Lamar Jackson for yards per carry. Lamar finished with 6.3 for his career. If he stayed another season, I think that conversation is absolutely one that needs to be had with, when you're talking about the best running backs in school history. Obviously, back in the day, Walter Peacock was, he had the reign for 40 years before Lamar Jackson broke his rushing record. There were quite a few big names, back in the day, Howard Stevens, Frank Moreau. But yeah, in the modern era, especially, I think it's Michael Bush, maybe Javion Hawkins, Bilal Powell is up there. He had an excellent season in Coach Strong's first year. And then I think Jaws is entering the conversation.
That's where I'm stuck between Michael Bush is my one for that 100%, but I'm more talking two with Jaws and Bilal Powell, between those two of who, because I think he's better than Hawk at this point. Hawk couldn't catch the ball out of the backfield the way that Jawar can, and that's kind of what separates the two of them, in my opinion. So,
I think Jawar's lateral speed is something that people don't talk about enough. Hawk was very quick. Just go straight off the edge, finding a hole and just getting it done. Right, his speed was his main strength.
And Mekhi Becton was blocking for him.
That's also a good point. But Jawar he's definitely a complete back, and he does not get nearly enough credit for that. I think.
No,
it's not just his speed; he has strength, as he proved against Duke and many times before this season. He's an incredibly strong, agile back, and like I said, I mean, that cut against Notre Dame is one of my favorite runs that I've seen from any back in U of L history, at least, in my lifetime.
Speaking of that, what are we doing? How are we going to have you on the show and not even ask you about the button, Reggie? And the Notre Dame. What are we doing? How was pressing the button? I mean, you did a great job with hyping the crowd up. That was great. You've made it in a couple videos since then, so you did your job on that.
Okay, first and foremost, that was the goal, right? So walking away from it, hearing that, because Vince, we talked even prior to that, right?
Yeah, I can tell.
I was still trying to talk and fill it out, but no, it was dope, man. Like, it was a great time. I was passionate, about the opportunity. I felt it in the air. We were going to do what we did, and we ended up doing that. But yeah, guys, like I don't mean to keep going back to the point, but I think all of us are agreeing to the fact of like what Jawar is doing needs to be talked about more, because whether or not he's been there long enough to be in a conversation of 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the case is, right? It's undeniable that he's going to go down as being one of the most electric guys in the modern era for, our sake, right? That we've ever seen wear a Louisville jersey and touch that football at the running back position. And for me, this being one of my first years, not, playing in the NFL and being able to watch a lot more games and know what I know as far as what translates to the next level, and just simply watching him have success where he's at now. I mean, like I said, I could have a whole breakdown of just how he's playing, how he's carried himself, the whole nine, right? So, yeah, man.
He's going to be a dude that's going to be getting paid on Sundays. That's a fact.
100%.
He's special, man. I mean, Louisville fans, I think the takeaway here is do not take for granted what you have for the next 4, 5, 6 games. They have 4 regular season games left. Fingers crossed, ACC championship. We'll get to that in a second. And then obviously a bowl game, wherever that might end up being. We could be in for, if things go the way that we think they might, 6 games, maybe 7 games, maybe 8 games. Could be a special ride. Could be a special ride.
Wild,
you never know.
That'd be
know.
It's time. We've been patient enough as a fan base. It's time.
Exactly. Very quickly, because I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Jacob's sack update.
Now you got to have more energy with it. Jacob's sack update.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jacob's sack update.
There's a steak dinner on the line for this, Presley.
Yeah, that's true.
Reggie, at the start of the year, Jacob, he was so generous and was like, I'm going to take whoever wins this Sack King award, which is obviously most sacks in the year, individual sacks, out for a steak dinner. So I'm intrigued as to where he's going to take the athlete and how it's going to work, and if it comes to fruition.
Hey, I'm loving that.
So my most recent thoughts about this too are he needs Ashton to win, because I don't think Ashton's 21. If he takes Mason out for a nice steak dinner, I don't know what's going to happen there. So, but no, Jared Dawson and Jermaine Lele, both new to the sack race this week, both recorded 1 sack. Both very impressive sacks. Jared Dawson bull rushing a guy pretty much straight up the middle.
Coach Ivy likes to call that one putting the shockers on him. putting the freaking electric shockers right on the heart and shocking them all the way back to the quarterback.
And that is not the first time that something like that's happened this year. In fact, it seems like Louisville gets a sack or at least a tackle for loss in the same manner at least once a game. Incredibly impressive because that's not stuff you saw getting sat. You didn't see that power up the middle. Everything was coming from the outside and sat in Brown's defense. So that was pretty impressive. And Jermaine Lillet, dude, that dude moves for his size.
Yeah, you want to talk about taking players for granted. He is I mean, we haven't talked about him. You know, a lot of people haven't really talked about Jermaine, but he's quietly having a phenomenal year. He might not be making a lot of tackles, but that's not what you expect out of your nose guard. I mean, you don't really, I mean, in my opinion, at least, I expect him to take up blocks, you know, shoot the gaps and things like that. So my linebackers can make the tackles. And, you know, he's doing his job perfectly well. And Presley, he is moving people. It's pretty freaking wild. He's a big old Polynesian dude. So, I mean, dudes are different.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his eligibility looks like, but I'd love to have him back one more year. I'm not sure, you know, that's another dude that, you know, if he continues on the trajectory that he's on, I could see him in the league next year. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Ashton Gelati doing Ashton things, 2 more sacks, leading the race by a little bit wider of a margin now with 8.5 total sacks. So, Mason, if you're listening, you got some work to do. Last thing before we head to a break real fast. Louisville is ranked number 13 in the first edition of the college football playoff rankings. Surprised by that? Pleased by that? What are we thinking, boys?
It's the highest we've been since, you know, old Reggie Bonnafon was leading us out there. I mean, it's pretty wild to think of how far, you know, how high up we got in 16, you know, to be a number 2 in the country to, I think, you know, Kelly Dickey, correct me if I'm wrong, but like 6 in 2016 was like highest we got whenever the playoff poll came out. I mean, to see the heights there and to see how low it got in 2018. I know you weren't around for that, Reggie, but I mean, the lowest of the low of Louisville football to where, I mean, you're not even wanting to show up on Saturdays to, you know, how Sat did. And, you know, you can have your comments on Sat, you know, as you want, but he did dig us out of the gutter at a time when we needed somebody to dig us out of the gutter. So it's great. And it's, in my opinion, expected out of a Jeff Brom coach football team. We've said it from the get-go. This is the most talented football team he has ever had. He has not had a running back like this since Ace Wells at Western Kentucky. You know, he hasn't had weapons like this on the outside since Lord knows when. I mean, he was fighting for guys at Purdue to come out and be that stud for him. So in my opinion, it's expected, and it should be expected every year for them to be in this kind of conversation with one loss going into this point or no losses going into this point.
Right. I agree. You know, ideally, knowing what we know, right, we know that we could be a little bit higher if it was just one game where things, you know, play here, play there, right? But ultimately, with, you know, piggybacking with everything you just said, Vince, to me, I was pleased with it for a couple of reasons, right? One, I think it's at a perfect location to where it's like it's not too high to where it can get to your head, but it's not too low to where it's like, we got a long way to go, like, right? So we're right where we need to be in a perfect spot to where, look, if we control our own destiny, taking one game at a time, and that seems to be the message that's, you know, being shared in their locker room, right? You know, I feel like we control our destiny. And sometimes that's scary as a team because, you know, you got to handle your business. But the opportunities that lie ahead with other teams playing deeper into their conference gives the possibility for us to control our own destiny and still climb the charts with other teams having to play tougher teams. So for me, I think it's the perfect spot. I think it was a perfect spot. I think everything happened for a reason. I think the Pittsburgh kind of woke everybody up as to like, hey, look, you know, we're a good football team, but we can still be beat, right? So shout out to College Game Day for
calling out. Yeah, man.
Right. But, you know, I think everything's pointing in the direction of you guys coming to visit, and I can take you guys to the Eagle down here, you know,
yes,
ACC championship, right? and all that good stuff. But, ultimately, I think it's just taking it one game at a time. Obviously, Virginia Tech being that next game. And a guy like me still doesn't forget about Marcus Vick stepping on Big Elvis.
Right.
So I'm ready,
Yeah, right.
So 2 questions for you guys. Number one, do you guys think that Jeff and the staff are showing the players video from 2005 to motivate them?
Why not? Why
Yeah.
not?
He might. We have like 6 big ass TV screens in the locker room that are showing something at all hours of the day. So I wouldn't be surprised.
And if I'm not mistaken, Brian Brown was the quarterback then, right? Or was that
in that specific game? He was not. It was Hunter Cantwell because Brian Brown was hurt. But yes, he was on that team. So yes.
So I think there is some some correlation there to where you can kind of pull from that. But when I talked with the guys against night before NC State, that's one thing I kind of try to share with them. I'm like, look, like the fact that you guys have a head coach that not only has actually been in this situation in the shoes that you've been in, but has come back home with the caliber of coach he is. I was like, you guys pretty much need to like do some homework to like really understand, right? Like the magnitude at which you guys are, the position you're in, and the opportunity that you have to have this coach coaching you guys in his first year, where it feels like this is like the rebuild. Like this is what you call a rebuild, like rebuilding a program. Like all these coaches talking about, I need 3 years, 7 years, and all this extra, like that give me time. And the famous words of Bobby Petrino is to show me world.
Show me world.
It's showing people how to rebuild a program and do it the right way. So that's my take for sure.
This man, somebody hired this man as a coach somewhere. Come on.
I'm sure people would line up. I mean, all you gotta do is call Cobb and Saxon over at Trinity. You can go get in over there at any time if you wanted to.
They were soft recruiting me, man. But I like with the 2-year-old, anything's possible. But even trying this out, right? I mean,
just go do Little League. That'd be way more fun.
Nah, yeah, for sure. Pull out a North Turner NFL playbook and
right
against one of these little teams around here.
It's funny, we're laughing about that, but like in my head, where Louisville was at, like there's a correlation to like high school football right now because they're in win or go home mode. It's kind of like this is almost like you're, flip your mindset, like you're in a playoff right now. It's 1 week at a time, one game at a time. Now, we'll still get to go to a bowl game, but it's all about what bowl game do you want to? Do you want to go to Miami or do you want to go, somewhere in Texas?
Right. Think about it. It's almost like the at this point in the season for our program, we should approach it like the NBA is going to with the midseason playoff or whatever.
Yeah, right.
This is the stretch, right? I think it was that year after we lost to Clemson at Clemson, right? We were kind of in a similar situation. Like we were still like 6-1, 7-1, whatever it was.
Yep.
Kind of probably still, around the same time, 13, 15 in the country. And we go down to Houston and just
laid an egg.
Yeah, right. Completely blow it. And then Kentucky and what I'm saying, it just unraveled rather
we lost our last 3 that year.
Yeah.
That's how much like a loss, to your point, like a loss right here can do to your team. I mean, it can completely write a lot of guys off. It's hard to and at that point it's hard to bring them back in to get them focused for whatever week.
Yeah. So responding the way we did against Duke, right? And shutting them off the scoreboard, going into playing Virginia Tech. Man, like I said, this team's really showing a lot of resiliency, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait.
So what are players and coaches saying this week? Like, what's the message? Because Vince, you kind of alluded to, Louisville controls its own destiny. The fact of the matter is right now, if they win their next 3 games, they will play in the ACC championship. There's no, tiebreakers or anything that will even come into play. If they win their next 3, they are in the ACC championship game. So now the pressure is on them, right? So as an athlete, as a team that's trying to band together and make this stretch run, what's the messaging there? Is it just, we have to work this much harder, we have to prepare this much better, or do you try to keep it lighter?
Well, I look at it as more of a motivation. Like, this is the pressure you have wanted since you were 7 years old, watching whoever, Brian Braun, Michael Bush, and all these other guys, or whoever you were watching at the time, go and do their thing. Like, this is what you wanted. These were the moments that you strived for, and you worked in June and July, in the middle of that Tuesday of the third week of fall camp, when you haven't talked to your girl, your mom, your dad, or anybody, and you're like, what am I doing here? Like, that's what these moments are for. It's hard. And that's our Coach Beatty used to say it all the time to us. If it was easy, everybody would do it, So this is what you want. You want that pressure. You want, and you still have that chip on your shoulder too, because we're still Louisville, and people still a lot of times don't want to give us a lot of credit. So that's a dangerous football team, and that's a football team that a lot of teams should, quite frankly, be afraid to play.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to keep going back to this, but I just want to emphasize the importance sometimes of learning a lesson in a loss, right? And what I feel like the team learned in the loss to Pittsburgh, which was a team that you should have beat, a team that didn't match up athletically to the type of talent that we have on our roster, right? And
shouldn't have even been on the same field as us, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? And just basically underperformed that night, right? Coming into a game like Virginia Tech, there's a lot of similarities to that. Virginia Tech's 4-4. They've lost to Purdue, lost to Rutgers, they lost to Florida State and Marshall. None of those teams are scrubs. Even watching them just a few weeks ago against Marshall, and Vince, I'm sure you can attest to this too, and being on the team, Marshall is not an easy place to play.
Oh, no, not by any means.
You know what I mean?
That's all they got up there.
Yeah, so I think by the loss in the Pittsburgh game, playing a team like Virginia Tech that looks on paper like, oh, yeah, it's an easy win, like we should win. Like, no, you already have that bad taste in your mouth. So to Vincent's point, the motivation's already there. It's in your you control it, your destiny in your hand, to the point where it's like, do you want to feel that sting again? Do you want to feel not go to sleep that night because you wish you had a couple of plays back, or do you want to leave it all out here these next, 3 games, and put it all out on the line for 60 minutes, and be in Charlotte in a couple of weeks, having the time of your life, So it's all in front of us.
And I promise you, you want to talk about sour after a loss. From the beer to the food to the water to the Gatorade to everything is just like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
It's heartbreak. It's like you just got broken up with.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Literally. I was so flustered, honestly, just because mid-game, right? I just made a quick McDonald's run. Me and the wife, we had a little, just wanted to grab a bite to eat. And I run the McDonald's real quick, give me a couple of McChickens. I'm on the way back. I'm telling my wife, I'm like, hey, keep me updated as I'm going, right? I get no updates.
Oh, no.
Right? So I get back home and I'm like, hey, what is going on? As I'm walking into the door, I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, yeah, I didn't want to update you because it's not looking good. I come back, like, oh my God. So yeah, man. I think we're gonna be just fine. I think, like I said, that sting it stung everybody. And to finish it off after the game, I was just so flushed. My wife, she went to lay down. I was like, man, I gotta do a emergency Twitter Spaces. I gotta talk this out. I can't go to sleep mad tonight, right? And
I saw you did that.
Yeah, man. And just talked it out with a couple of fans, and it was all good. So, yeah, I think that lesson and that just prepares us for situations like this.
You guys you're giving me some confidence. Giving me some confidence for this week. And that's exactly what fans need going into this weekend. And what they can do when they're confident is place some wagers, because you can do that legally now in Kentucky. Louisville sports betting is officially live in Kentucky. That means that sites are offering new bettors tons of awesome bonuses to get started. We made it super easy. Put in all our favorite promos into one list for you. Check it out. All of our sportsbook promos are on bit.ly/state of Louisville. Again, that's bit.ly/state of Louisville. So you can maximize your first bets. Also, each time you sign up for one of the promotions, you're directly supporting our podcast, which is super important if you want to keep listening to us talk. So if you're looking to sign up for any Kentucky sportsbooks, head over to bit.ly/state of Louisville for our top offers. That's bit.ly/state of Louisville. Offers are only available for new customers who are 18 plus or 21 plus in select sportsbooks and physically present in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on the other side to talk a little more football. All right, turning our attention to Virginia Tech. This is a game that it's really hard to get a grasp of, right? Because Virginia Tech started out the year not what you want as a Virginia Tech fan, right? They started out kind of won a bit of a sloppy game against Old Dominion, then drop one at home to Purdue, a Purdue team that hasn't been that solid so far this year. Don't think they've won a game yet in the Big Ten. And they drop a game again at Rutgers, another Big Ten opponent, and then drop another one at Marshall. Now, again, that's not like some of these SEC teams that are playing, 2 MAC teams, 3 MAC teams or whatever. That's not like these teams that are fluffing things up. Rutgers, Marshall, Purdue, like those are quality brands, right? Those are big name opponents. That's 2 Big Ten opponents to start out the season. They also started out the season with a different quarterback. And so since that time, since they've switched over to their current quarterback, they dominated Pittsburgh. They played right alongside Florida State. They dominated Wake Forest, and they absolutely eviscerated Syracuse. So since that time, since they've switched quarterbacks, they've been much more solid. Their fan base is in the best place that they've been in quite some time. And they have a lot of confidence coming into this game. Louisville started out as about 11.5, 12-point favorite, depending on where you look at it. It's been bet down to about 9.5, 10. So a lot of fans have confidence in this Virginia Tech team. As you guys look at Virginia Tech, what are your kind of immediate takeaways?
Strong running game, and they're going to base, their passing game off of that. Obviously, it's going to be play action passes. So I expect them to hammer the rock and then, working their passes off of that. And obviously they're going to be hoping that those rushes hit early or their, shot plays hit early. Otherwise, they'll be playing behind the 8-ball, and that's not a spot that Virginia Tech wants to be in.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that sticks out to me as far as a matchup that I'm going to be interested in seeing how it pans out early on in the game to just establish dominance throughout the game is really in the trenches, right? When you look at Virginia Tech's defensive line, you look at our running game, I think both teams are going to want to establish some sort of dominance when it comes to that particular part of the game, because I think it's going to be a big key factor as far as just establishing field position, time of possession, things of that nature. So for me, along with what you just stated, Vince, that defense, the defensive matchup against trying to contain Jaws, right, and what he brings to the table, I think they're going to try their best to contain him to make us, put the ball in our quarterback's hands and force him to make some decisions through the air. So for me, that's something I'm going to be looking into.
You're looking at good on good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their strengths this year that's not talked about near enough is the offensive line has been very consistent. And even losing their most experienced offensive lineman right before the Pitt game, they look great against Duke. Offensive line looked great. Austin Collins stepped right in. Looked great on the interior line. So, again, that's a strength that a lot of people aren't talking enough about. But they're going up against a Virginia Tech defense that is dominant in the pass rush. They had 8 sacks last game against Syracuse, and they're averaging 3.8 per game, 5.7 sacks per game over the last 3. So they're continuing to develop this pass rush. And I think what's happening is they're getting out ahead of some of these teams. They're forcing opponents to throw the ball, and then their pass rush is dirty, man. They get to the quarterback and they're vicious. Like, this isn't like, catching a quarterback off the edge or something like that. Like, they're coming for you.
So I read Scott Roche, not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he posted an article before we started recording this. And he was mentioning the fact that the reasoning behind Virginia Tech's most of their losses is just their slow start. So in my opinion, if Louisville can obviously capitalize on that, that would be huge. Get out on them early and just foot on the throat, because, you want to force them to throw the ball. And, anytime you can have to force them to do their weakness, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. And look, we as a team, we have to expect them to leave it all out here, right? We need to expect the fake punts. You need to expect the 4th down attempts. All of this is on the table, right? They still are fighting for a bowl game, right? I mean, and that goes back to my point earlier. Like, this isn't such a critical point of the season to where it's like everybody's fighting for something. Right. It might be a little different here and there. It might be college football playoffs. One might just be going bowling or what have you.
Well, to your point, Reggie, like, Tech is in a position for themselves. If they went out, they control their own destiny as well with being in the ACC championship. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to, like you said, like, you have to expect this isn't like a week 1 or 2 where, you're holding some of your cards to your chest. This is all out. This is all the marbles right here. This is a big game for both teams.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I think that Louisville's game plan will mirror a lot of what they did against Duke. Duke had an excellent secondary, and as does Virginia Tech. And the secondary, as you kind of have seen with a lot of Louisville's quality opponents, the secondary and the pass rush kind of play well off of one another. So Virginia Tech's getting a lot of these coverage sacks, right? And so it would really behoove Louisville to get things going on the ground early. Virginia Tech only allows 165 passing yards per game, but they're allowing 151 rushing yards per game. So that's an important distinction to make, is that, when teams are getting it done against Virginia Tech, it's most often on the ground. And so with a pass rush that good, and with a secondary that's quality, and with an offense that it has a pretty solid running game, and then as a program, additionally, that's always been known to be a great special teams program. You factor all of that in, and really, to me, it comes down to, can Louisville's offensive line run block well enough, and can your guy, can your superstar running back take over and impact another game like he did against Duke, against Notre Dame. His last 2 outings have been two of the best of his career. So I think that's what it boils down to.
Another thing to look for, Press, is Jack getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Like, with that pass rush, that is something that you can utilize your hitches either on the outside or, with your tight ends. We utilized the tight end a little bit more last game. If that's something that Jack can get going in his game plan, then that pass rush is just going to get frustrated and eventually get in their head that, hey, we're not getting there. We're not getting home. And they're, it's going to be a psychological thing for them. And our offensive line is going to gain more confidence, and just, it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So Kyron Drones, Virginia Tech's quarterback, he's a special player. Since he's come in, he's really revitalized this team, really turned things around. Their only real slip up since he's been the starting quarterback was against Florida State. And I mean, Florida State's kind of beat down everybody that they played lately. 39-17 was the final score in that game. Drones is a true running threat as much as he is a passing threat. I think he has 110 pass attempts and 99 rush attempts so far this season, if I remember correctly. So with that in mind, and let me double check that real fast. 174 pass attempts. I apologize.
And 99 rushing attempts. You were right.
99 rushing attempts.
50%.
but he's their second leading rusher. He has 400 yards on 99 carries on the season. And what Virginia Tech does really well, and what they did really well against Wake Forest and what they did really well against Syracuse, was that they almost always have somebody in motion pre-snap. They're always bringing a receiver across. They're always sending a running back out. And then there's always something coming side to side. They're always, there's always a threat that there's some sort of RPO or some kind of dump off or maybe some kind of option type of play. So for Louisville, how do you think Louisville is preparing for a team like this, where you have a running back who's a true threat, you have a quarterback who's a true rushing threat, and they constantly have these motions that you have to be paying attention to. You have to have a guy that's some sort of spy on defense. What's Louisville doing to prepare for an offense like this, and how do you stop an offense like this?
You got to communicate. That's for one, on the back end with all the motions and things like that. You have to be on your P's and Q's and just almost over communicate in those situations. You can never have too much of the guys calling the same signal or anything like that. I mean, it's repetitiveness and making sure everybody's on the same page. And you need guys like TJ Quinn to come downhill on the running game. Jermaine Lole and Jared Dawson, those guys, they can have another big game where they control a lot of the front stuff, like Reggie was talking about earlier, the battle in the trenches, and just make TJ Quinn and the rest of the linebackers make their job that much easier. And like I said, you just got to communicate on the back end.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, to your point, communication is vital, of course, right? As plenty of coaches have said in both of our careers, Vince. I think in this week's game, just look, and hopefully this is being, and I'm sure it is being preached to all the guys. It's just simply, all you have to do is do your 111. You just have to do your job, whether it's that gap, taking on two guys, filling this gap that's on the complete other side of the field with so many different motions and directions everybody's going. The eye discipline is paramount, right? Because it's going to be so many different things happening, so much eye candy that offenses tend to use, such as this offense, that not being disciplined in what your job is at the position is just so important. Like nobody needs to be trying to do anybody else's job outside of their own. And then secondly, with a mobile quarterback, just look for the defensive lineman not to rush past the quarterback, right? You want to keep this guy in front of you. You want to contain him. You want to pressure him. You want to make him a passer, right? Take one of his strengths away, and let's see if he can beat us with his arm. But those two things combined, I think, will allow us to have our defense continue to play with confidence, continue to play fast, and ultimately, who knows, right? Coming off a shutout against an ACC opponent, leaving them with no points in the position that this season is, I mean, that defense is very confident right now. And hopefully they're not overcoaching them, because if you're shutting out a D1 ACC program that's having a great season for them, that's no small feat. So hopefully carry over to this week with those key little detail things as far as communication, eye discipline, and just rushing the passer and keeping them in front of you and not rushing past them. I think it's basically all we kind of need to, do our job on that end of the bargain when we're talking about defense.
We're talking about game planning for Virginia Tech. I think another thing that Louisville's going to try to do is get off to a quick start. One thing that's kind of plagued Virginia Tech under Brent Pry, he's in his second year at Virginia Tech, and they, especially this season, have gotten off to really slow starts. We talked about those losses to Marshall, Rutgers, Florida State. Those are all their road games this season, and when they're on the road, they do not start well. And one thing that Louisville's done incredibly well this season is start hot on offense and defense. They've only allowed 7 points in the first quarter this season, which is massive. So I think that's another thing that Louisville's going to try to continue is they're going to try to continue just kind of bring the heat early and often on defense. And again, just like Duke, get off to one of those long, kind of just consistent plodding drives, take some time off the clock, and just show that you can be dominant once again in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think that's Louisville's game plan. Reggie, this would be a good question for you because you've been in some of the most hostile environments that there are, right? I mean, we're talking Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State. How much does home field advantage matter? Especially when you have two teams like this. I mean, Louisville has 2 ranked wins this year, and they won those games in dominant fashion. They've been dominant at home. They have the 5th longest home winning streak in the country. Can you speak to how much that matters and how much you saw it affect opponents for big games coming in to Louisville?
Just to come off answering your question, firing away, it matters a ton, right? I saw something after the Notre Dame game, the top 5 highest attending games in school history at home. Either I had attended, which was like the one that I attended was the 2019 Notre Dame game. Every other one I had played in. And it was crazy because I was like, wow, like it's crazy, right? When we're talking about the whole history of playing in that stadium, right? We're talking about the blackout games in West Virginia, like even crazier than those, right? So yeah, I think that's why as a fan collective, we're always trying to push the fans to even be in there earlier, right? Telling everybody, hey, like fill up the seats before kickoff, and like everybody, like almost in an annoying way, is always like, oh, okay, like this is the game, to get there early. But like to a player, like that matters. Like when I tell you, like when they open up that door and you're able to run out the stadium, and you run out and you see 60,000 people in black and red screaming their head off. And you're already excited about the game, but then you see the support from the city, from the fans. I mean, it's a legitimately 12th man. Like, there's no other way to put it. There's no way we beat Florida State and put up 70 points, 60 points, just running plays. No, we're jacked up because we have a whole crew with us, behind us, right? Cheering for us, motivating us, telling us when we're doing good, telling us when we're doing bad. So I think the same thing applies to where we're at now. I think the reason being we're having so much success, the reason being that a Notre Dame comes into Ellen Stadium and we hand it to them is not only because our fans are excited about the product on the field, not only are our fans excited about our head coach, but ultimately, like, these are the games that matter the most. It's going to take however many games it takes to get to Charlotte to actually get to Charlotte and actually play the game.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So every game is like literally just as important as it would be if we were kicking off for the ACC championship. How many people would be in their seats for the ACC championship?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just like when you look at it like that, and maybe we need to do a better job of just having conversations to put it in perspective, and that's why I'm kind of just appreciative once again for the opportunity, because sometimes what you don't know is almost worse than knowing, right? Like if you don't know, that's important to the players, and you feel like, oh, I mean, they're players, like they have NIL deals,
Well, they get everything. Yes,
they don't care. Like, no, I promise you, they care more about that than 99% of everything else going on. And that's
I don't know where your eyes went. We'd run out of the stadium, right? And I'd see everything and I'd notice how many people were there. But once the game went, I'm like,
oh, no.
Yeah, you feel me? So it's like that pivotal moment of running out, like you mentioned, is like that's huge for guys. And even in warm-ups, like just seeing people flood in, start to trickle down in through warm-ups and stuff. I know you weren't there in 18. Like whenever you ran out and it was just empty and quiet and like
it felt like a scrimmage. It felt like a scrimmage in the stadium, and
it's like an open practice with the other team's fans.
Yeah, and that's never the way it's supposed to be, especially in our stadium with the support and fan base that we have, right? So even now with what we have around us,
I think everybody was there early Notre Dame to watch you push the button.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
then I need to be, and that's why I'm moving back because
I guess you're all-time button pusher now.
I feel like from what I get, as far as the reviews and stuff, I set the standard, right? So moving forward, I'm just knowing that I can hang my hat on that, and they're gonna have to call me back because nobody's gonna do it better than me. So
you definitely did it better now. Whenever Lamar did, it was very.
Yeah. Because nobody knows, like nobody. That's why I'm saying, like I just felt like because the advice that I was getting was so scattered. I'm like, I'm going up here and setting the tone, bro. Like anybody pushing the button after me, either he's gonna have to top me or he's not gonna do as good as me. But
I have been waiting though. I want somebody to jump up on there and jump on the button. Like I want to see somebody like get on the platform and like really push that thing. I think that'd get people just hyped up.
I thought about it. I was so close, but just the frame of it, I'm just not for. I'm not sure about the stability.
I was about to say it's just like
what he's saying is I would have broke that shit if I would have jumped on it, Presley.
I didn't sign any waivers for the university. I don't know if the insurance would cover it. So I was just, like I want to get back home safe and sound one piece.
They owe you, bro.
I'm just imagining so like that same game, like, we all made our way down to the field and like we got up there early, like 6 minutes left in the game. And if you remember, that last 6 minutes took forever to finish. Yeah. And so we're just standing there waiting. It's been a long day. We've been drinking, enjoying, having a good time. You're just beating Notre Dame. Like, we got to get down there on the field. Mm-hmm. But when I tell you, like, I saw like the last knee and I was the first one at the wall. So I just go to jump. Now, like, that's got to be the most unathletic that anybody's ever looked in their entire lives. So like, I'm trying to picture like myself trying to get up on that damn thing to press the button in front of 60,000 people. And like, it looked like, an average person climbing a fence that's a little too tall, just.
We'll get there one day. We'll press the button one day.
That's a high wall, bro. So I'm just gonna tell you, like, don't feel unathletic for that. Because I'm like when you're about to jump and you kind of like scary, like, fidgety a little bit. I would have did the same thing, bro.
Bro, I've seen a strength staff hand a whole ass player over top that wall in the middle of conditioning because he's dead.
Yeah, I haven't. I've been down on the field enough times, but it's the experience of like going through the adrenaline and forgetting you're jumping like 8 feet. Like, it's a fall. Like, I was hurting the next day for sure.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
But one thing I did want to get into real fast when we're talking about the home field advantage was, the energy in Cardinal / L&M Stadium versus other stadiums. So like I've gotten a chance to visit a lot of ACC atmospheres, to see a lot of different game days. And in my opinion, apologize for this train in the background. We're talking about L&M Stadium. There's got to be a train. Obviously. That's what it is. But no, like NC State, we were there this year, and it struck me that NC State, it's very loud. They have a reputation for being super loud, but I don't think NC State fans are nearly as impactful as Louisville fans. And I think that's a pretty standard across the board. There's an energy in Cardinal Stadium, especially for a big game, that I haven't really experienced anywhere else. Like, I know NC State was loud. They had a big student section. They were organized. They have a lot of chants and that sort of stuff. But it's just different at Louisville. Do you guys feel that at all?
I do. Not to take away anything from any other player. Any other stadium, and not really being biased either. Like, and when I say that, I'm genuinely mean is like there's tough places to play in the ACC. Don't get me wrong, but I think what you're referring to, Prez, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you talk about just like facility, just the aesthetic and things of that nature, like it's no comparison. Nobody in the ACC. Like, please point me in the direction if somebody's remotely even close, because I genuinely don't know.
Well, anytime you can get 35, 40,000 people, however many were there for the Duke game, I don't know the number, but anytime you can get that amount of people singing Friends in Low Places together in like unison in a Sweet Caroline type moment for Louisville, that's just – it's moments like that where I see our fan base doing what they're doing. And yeah, it might not be the sold out crowd that everybody's hoping for and everything, but that's what brings me the most joy. Like, our fans truly love going to the football games and cheering the guys on. And I mean, I feel it now that I'm a fan. Like, I understand why they didn't come in 2018. Like, the product was freaking terrible. It was shit. I'd still go because that's just who I am, but I understand why people didn't go at the same time. But, to have the crowd and to have the energy, to have the fan base that we have now, it's a hard place to play. I mean, it really is. It's in 19 when Notre Dame came in, and that was my first year really having any like impact on the field, and having a headset on and trying to hear the plays was incredible. So the fan base really does make a difference. As you know, Reggie, being at Clemson in 16 or 17, 16, whenever we played them at their place, you couldn't even have, the conversation we're having right now at that spot because it was so loud. So, I mean, the fans matter. Everybody matters. It's, everybody doing their 1/12, I guess.
Yep, for sure. For sure. I had so many people even hit me up that weren't at the game and just spoke to the electricity of the stadium just watching it on TV, right? So I think sometimes our fans don't realize how great of fans they are, right? And,
you text back and you said, I've had that whole 30,000 people, 40, 50,000 people chanting my name before. What you talking about?
But hey, no, that was a good send out. I appreciate it, fans. Shout out to y'all for that. Senior day.
That was dope. That was dope.
Yeah, that was dope. But I just think that just overall, right? Just our whole athletic department, like our fans, and to your point, Vince, I understand what fans don't want to support, because at the end of the day, they want to come see a good product. All right. But when the fans are satisfied collectively, they show up again. Right. So we see that in other, sports too. We're not going to get into that right now, but
basketball. We see that in basketball. Yeah. That's what Reggie was talking about. He's nice. I'm not going to be nice about it.
Season hasn't started just yet, so I didn't really want,
No, we're already there. We're
talking about practice.
Well, I will say, as far as the home field advantage this year, it's never been more distinct for Louisville. They're beating opponents at home 42-12 on average. So I'd say that's pretty solid. They've won their last 3 games at home against ranked teams. Obviously, everybody remembers Wake Forest last year, 48-21. They beat Notre Dame 33-20, and then beat Duke 23-0. So, again, definitely something to be said about that. And I think it's something to pay attention to and keep an eye on going forward. A lot of people nationally might not give too much credence to it now, but if they win these next 3 home games, they have Virginia Tech, Virginia 2 fairly winnable games, and then, you host Kentucky at home. You win those 3 games, you got a 12-game home winning streak. And when the product's only going to continue to get better, the opponents are only going to continue to get better as we go forward. So it's going to be something to watch for sure. And I truly do feel after my experiences in other places that it's hard to match the atmosphere and environment at Louisville. There will be places that are louder, but the energy in that stadium is going to become, under Jeff Brom, one of the best home field advantages in the sport. And I think that's something to be super proud of and super excited about. Going forward, just looking at this Virginia Tech game, any final thoughts before we get into predictions? Any other key matchups that we're looking at that we're looking forward to?
I just want to see the guys, like Reggie talked about, and the just control the battle up front with the offensive and defensive line. Jack come out and be consistent, because, as good as Jawar isn't going to single-handedly win us the football game as much as people like to think he does. We still have to throw the ball. And, obviously Jack is the biggest part in that. So if he can be more consistent, continue to improve, and, not make dumb decisions, not throw the ball away with 2 hands, chest pass down the field or anything like that, I think we'll be pretty good. This defense is playing lights out, and I never would have thought in my 26 years of being on this earth that we'd be talking about a Jeff Brom defense being better than a Jeff Brom offense. So that's pretty cool, and I like the situation we're in with that.
Yeah. For me, once again, I'm looking for Jack to just come out there and play his game, right? We're not asking him to do anything outside of himself. Obviously, just run the show. Obviously, Jawar, big impact player, looking for him to continue his success and having dominant performances. But the X factor for me going into this game will probably continue to be Jamari Thrash, right? And then a co-star along with him, Amari Huggins-Bruce. I feel like these two guys are playmakers, but, as we progress in the season more and more, teams are going to focus on Jawar. Like, this game might be the last game we see Jamar in single coverage or, one guy tracking him or that type of game plan. There's going to start being two people going with him if he continues to put up the numbers that he's putting up. So we need somebody else to be a consistent playmaker for us moving forward that can kind of take off the load of him in our offense. But, holistically, I just want us to take care of the ball, take the ball away from them, win the field position game. And I think we got another victory under our belt.
One more thing to add, Press, I know you'll love this, is guess who is coaching over there at Tech, who I also believe is the special teams coach?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
Satterfield. Worked under Satterfield.
No way.
Stu Holt.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot.
Stu Holt is over there, Presley. And
Man.
You might see some trickery on special teams or something like that.
So something to definitely point out and watch, and this is my X factor this game, right?
Stu Holt's not my X factor for those that were wondering. He's the damn
not necessarily Stu Holt himself, but Virginia Tech's special teams is once again special. They became known for that for years, and kind of went away from that when they had some down years. But they have a punt and kick returner that is electric. And I'm hoping that Louisville has some sort of game plan to go away from this guy. He is a game changer. And if Virginia Tech's doing its thing, making Louisville, turn the ball back over, on downs, not, actual turnovers. If they're getting the ball back from Louisville, Louisville needs to have a game plan to scheme away from their kick and punt returner. He's excellent. So he's top 5, I believe, in the country in punt return average. So yeah, something definitely to watch. And obviously, all credit to Stu Holt there. One other thing to get into as well, as you guys indicated, but just to kind of add on to this just a little bit, I think it's going to be vital for Jack Plummer to continue managing the game the way that he did against Duke. I think some of Louisville's most impressive, surprising games this year were at NC State, against Indiana, and against Duke, because they didn't overdo anything. They kept it very simple, and Jack didn't make a ton of kind of boneheaded mistakes, and that's so crucial. Given the structure of this team and what the coaching staff wants to do. They didn't throw anything fancy at any of those teams. They weren't running a bunch of trick plays. They weren't doing anything super out of the ordinary. They were just winning in the trenches, and just taking what they get. They were a bunch of fourth downs. They were taking field goals when they needed to. Defense played solid. Everybody did their job. That's, again, what I want to see against Virginia Tech. With Virginia Tech's pass rush being the way that it is, their last 2 games, they were getting home with 4 guys. So that means that, unless you have something break open on in the secondary, I anticipate Virginia Tech being able to get home a little bit and put some pressure on Plummer. And it's going to be up to him to know when to get the ball away, to know when to take a sack. He did a great job of that last week, and I want to see that continue. Getting into our predictions just a little bit, I'll go ahead and do Jacob and Matt's, excuse me. So again, Jacob on dad duty tonight for his daughter's birthday. Nobody can blame him there. So tonight we will do prediction, and then if Louisville will cover. And so we did this last week, and we all planned terribly because we all picked Louisville to cover, but we all got the points because Louisville did win and they did cover. So right now we'll say that the spread is 9.5. So if we're going to pick one way or another, Jacob chose Louisville to win 31-20. So he has Louisville covering and winning 31-20. And Matt went with 31-17. So real original there, Matt. Would have just piggyback off Jacob. 31-17. Yeah, 31-17 for Matt. Reggie, you want to chime in with an official prediction?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I was going into it. I had one score, but I think I hyped myself up talking about the shutout last week. I look for it to carry over this week. I'm going 28-7. Cards.
There you go.
We covered.
I love that. What about you, Vince?
I am going to go now. Last week I was, I had to bite my tongue a little bit. I couldn't talk that much shit because I was really nervous about the Duke week because I was like, man, that's going to be terrible if I have to come back here and eat my words like I did against Ole Miss. But I'm fairly confident in this one here. I'm going 34-6.
34-6. Prediction was what, 38-3 or something like that?
Yeah, so I was so close to going with the shutout last week. I was so close.
I know, yeah. And
my gut was like, nah, bro, they're not gonna, no way. Like, they're not gonna shut out.
Like, you said you didn't want to sound like a jerk, and I get that, but you would have been right. So
yeah, I should have trusted my gut. What would Christian Laettner? What would what's his name that plays for the Bucks now? They both would have tripped him and pushed the guy and done all the dirty stuff. So I should have went with it. I know, that's on me.
I'm going to take the Cards 38-24. So we all have them covering again, but I do truly believe that we all will have it right. I was very impressed with Virginia Tech's strengths and how they just thoroughly dominated two lesser opponents the last 2 weeks.
Okay, here's the tiebreaker then. Mm-hmm. Over under Jawar 100, or do you think Jawar will have over under 100 yards?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm going to say over because I think that Louisville's going to stick to their strengths and run the ball. Their strength against Virginia Tech's perceived weakness, I'd say 100 yards. Yeah, I'd say over.
Now, I know I've been talking my man up, right? I want him to run it for 100 yards. So, but what I think is going to happen, in order for them to legitimately have a chance to beat us, he cannot run for 100 yards. So I feel like he's going to be under for this game, but I think we still pull it out and do everything. He still makes his plays, scores touchdowns, but I just don't see him eclipsing that. If they want to have a chance at winning, if he eclipses it, I mean, we might have another shutout.
Let's see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go with Reggie. Reggie, you have not led me wrong with many things in my life. So if this is wrong, I mean, this is on my show. I mean, I'm an adult now. Like, I'm coming for you. Yeah. So I'm blaming all you.
It'll be on me. I'll take it. I can own that. I can own up to that.
This isn't like the coach speak where they'll take the blame instead of throwing a player under the bus. Vince,
no.
Yeah, I will throw him under the bus.
Right.
I played Mr. Team Guy with Reggie.
Yeah.
Throwing him under the bus for this one if I get it wrong.
All right. So what's the plans this weekend, Reggie? Where are you watching the game, or will you be able to watch the game?
Yeah, most definitely. I will be watching the game. Looking at it right now, it'll probably be at the crib, right? On the couch, daddy duties. Might have a couple of bottle feedings throughout the first and the third. Right?
Yeah.
Second and fourth, be handing that off to wifey so I can be locked in going into halftime and maybe the final drive if needed. But yeah, I'm just kicking back at home, man. Enjoying the time. It's nice, beautiful fall weather out here in North Carolina, Charlotte right now. So just taking it in, man.
Getting it warmed up for us. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's it.
You're checking out all the spots, making sure, hey, you're making reservations now.
Yeah. And clearing out space. I'm putting tables together, in L shapes and things like that. So that's that's the way it's going down.
Last question for you before we get out of here. Do you get more nervous watching the games back now, or were you more nervous as a player?
Oh, I was more nervous as a player night and day. I mean, I don't have
I feel good going into games now.
Yeah, like nothing I'm doing. I mean, obviously, I want us to win. I want us to do, obviously represent the university in the best way. But no, luckily, like now I can sit back and actually enjoy watching the game without having that anxiety.
I like the honesty there. I think a lot of people, I don't even know if it's true or not, but a lot of people be like, oh, no, we were locked in as players, but now I'm nervous because I have no control over it. I think that's how a lot of people think about it. Like, if you don't have a say in the outcome of the game and you're just watching from the outside, it makes them more nervous. I like that perspective.
I used to watch a Mike Tyson video all the time. You want to talk about superstitions, going all the way back to that. This is like something I used to watch. He'd always talk about his opponent, and he'd be dreaming of his opponent beating him. And he's like, I'd always want them to beat me. I'd be just thinking about them beating me while I'm training and stuff. And then when he'd finally go out there on the field, it'd be like unleashing the chains. And it's like, I'm completely free out there. So so that was my mindset. But Presley, bring it home.
There you go. We'll bring it home for you guys. Reggie, thank you very much. We're very gracious for your time. Tell everybody where they can find you right now on social media so they can keep up with what you got going on.
Yeah. So you guys can find me on Twitter at RelentlessReg1, I believe. That's probably where I'm most active. Instagram, same handle. And just follow me. Be looking for some things in the works, right? Trying out the podcasting space, looking to explore some opportunities there. And some more things ahead. Football career is kind of come to an end as far as being in the NFL, which has been great. And looking forward to what's next. I want to get involved with, obviously connecting with the community, connecting with the fan base, and just continuing the love that I have for the university and athletic program. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm always available. I always reply back when I can if I'm not changing diapers. And appreciate you guys, once again for having me on.
Can we expect more Twitter Spaces?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, it's some things get mapped out now where, like, obviously I'm wanting to take my time and be strategic about it. Timing is everything. But yeah, like I said, just given the time and where I'm at right now with my little one, he's starting to sleep through the night a little bit. So I have a little bit more time on my hands.
That's right. The bags under your eyes, you're looking a little bit better than the last time we saw you.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. We got him in boot camp right now. So he's getting acclimated to things around here. He's gonna get in order, right? So, but yeah, man, excited about what's ahead, and definitely I think it'll be a good follow on Instagram or Twitter. And
I love it. Yeah, thank you so much again, Reggie. We will probably see you again very soon. This has been From Peak Seats Podcast, part of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. As always, make sure you support our sponsors, Kern's Corner, best chili in the city, and go get you a bottle of Mr. and Mrs.
This definitely sounds like a good one of those, Presley. I know you're a big glass smoker.
That's my Christmas list. Sure.
There you go. That's what we got going on for this week. And guys, make sure you are following us at Pink Seats Pod on Twitter and at the State of Louisville on Instagram. And as always, follow us at the State of Lou on Twitter/X. Until next time, this has been From the Pink Seats Podcast. See you after another dub.